Sanhedrin Daf Samach He Amud Aleph by the Mishnah on top. Today's daf sponsored by Maurice Dayan. L'Refuat Shlema Esther Bat Olga. Baal of person does sorcery through of. What does that mean? Zeb Pitom Deber Shahyo. This is a person who uses sorcery to talk through demons through his armpit. Vidoni. Yidoni is Ahmed Befif. Someone speaks through the mouth. What that means? It's through sorcery as well. Haru Biskila. They both get killed by stoning. Someone who uses, so the person who's actually doing it does the sorcery, sikila. If I ask someone to do it for me, I ask the sorcerer to do it for me, I just get an isur d'oraisa. Okay, just. How come over here our Mishnah mentioned both of and yidoni, and regarding to karet, it mentions of but did not mention yidoni. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan says, since the Torah both mention them in the same commandment, and therefore, technically, if you are over both of them by accident, you didn't know they were asur, you have only one korban hatat. That's why, because that's the reason. Because if you did both at the same time, you don't have one hatat. Second answer, yidoni, because there's no action involved into doing it. So Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, how come you mentioned that only the so you don't need the meaning the thing the action we're going to see doesn't actually do anything at the time of the sorcery, does something beforehand. So now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, how come you mention of instead of Yudani? Why only Yudani? Because the pasuk started off with of. The Gemara says, "V'yeresh lakish ma'it hamadol Rabbi Yochanan." How come Yeresh lakish not Rabbi Yochanan? Mar Papa says, "Halukin hem b'mita," is because the pasuk separated them in halachot of death. Since it mentions by Ov and Yidoni, the Torah mentions if a man or woman does Ov or Yidoni, they should die. And it sounds like that since it said Ov or Yidoni versus Ov the Yidoni and the Yidoni, it sounds like they're completely separate. The Gemara says, that's like a sketch separation. A difference in death is not considered a separation. Meaning, if halakat love, if it's a mention, if it's a separation only in death, like in the pasuk, that's not a real separation because it just says it together. If it's separate in regards to korban hatat, it's considered two separate lav and yibichayav. That would be a good separation. He would answer him. Kritot will be according to Rabbi Akiva. The Amar Lo said that you hold that you don't need an action to bring a korban hatat, and therefore even to do yidoni, you better have a hatat even though there's no physical action. It's true Rabbi Akiva doesn't require a major action per se, but you need a minor action at least to be a hayav, something minor. It would definitely be a hayav for something minor. But regarding a person who curses Hashem, who would bring korban hatat, that's not considered an action. You would say, no, as he speaks, his lips are moving, that's considered the action. So according to the Ov as well, when he does the sorcery of Ov, also what type of actions he's doing here. The Gemara says, he has to clap his arms in order to activate it, that's also considered action. But even according to Hachamim, but it says, a person not hayav korban hatat, says an actionable item. Kitur, v'nesuch, v'hishtah like slaughtering the animal, burning the animal, libation, or bowing down to Avda Zarah. Amar Shakish, she said, Man Tana Hishtahava, who mentioned that bowing is included to being Chayav Korban Hatat, Rabbi Akiva, the Imam Labain Masada, holds it only in action. Rabbi Yochanan says, even Hachamim would say, you're chayav by bending one's body to bow down. You're chayav. So now, therefore, according to the Kumato, the Baran Maaseh that bowing down is not considered an action. Hakashad Rotav Kabbalah, if you have Maaseh, clapping your hands for Ov will be considered an action. Bowing down is not. Remember, it says, he says, no, true. According to him, according to Hachamim, clapping would not count. He's talking in Rabbi Akiva's opinion. About according to themselves, they would not hold like that. They're just talking in his opinion. Yeah, if that's the case, that they don't hold clapping is good enough. The Hachamim should have said excluded from actionless items, sins are cursing Hashem and of. How can you only excluded the cursing of Hashem? Where it says, he's burning incense for a shindal, a demon. And that's considered a major real action. That's what ov is, and that's considered a major real action. The Gemara says, if he's doing it for the demon, that's straight up avodah. That's not even, it's not sorcery. You should be chayav. The Gemara says, he's not burning the incense for the demon, he's burning incense to bring the demon. All right, we're learning some very interesting stuff over here. You're able to conjure demons, you're able to bring demons in front of you by using incense. So the Gemara says, if a person is bringing incense to get demons to come to him, that's just conjuring things. That's not considered of. That's mitah. You should get malkut. Right? And yeah, but the Torah said that conjuring demons would be chayav sekila. And we see that Pasuk says whoever conjures, whether you're conjuring big animals, you're conjuring small groups of animals, even if you're bringing upon yourself snakes and scorpions, right? Legit, straight up magic. They were able to use this koach hatumah to conjure these creatures. Whoever, for example, makes their own bee scorpion, they create a bee and a scorpion and they mold them together through magic. Even though he makes them without intention to harm them, asur is asur. The Rashi, however, does mention that if a person is joining these creatures together to stop them from chasing him, that's mutar. So if the person, the scorpion, is chasing after him and he decides to attach wings to it and let the scorpion fly away versus attacking him, that's to save his life. That's okay. All right. Try that. Rabbi Yochanan says, how come bowing down is not considered a majorable action versus but cursing Hashem would not be considered an action. Rabbi says, a person who curses Hashem is different because his sin is not necessarily the actionable action that he's doing, but it's more of a sin in his heart. Gemara says, yeah, it's edim zomin. Edim zomin are excluded from bringing a korban hatat. There's no action. Why? If they have this sin in their heart as well, they're trying to hurt someone else with their false testimony. The Gemara says, over there is different because their sin is in what they did with their voice. Their voice is what's technically sinning by testifying falsely, and that's not really a major action. But according to Yochanan, voice is not good enough action. Someone had an animal. You're not supposed to muzzle your animal while it's working because it's cruel that it can't eat. Let's say you stop it from eating by just whistling at it or with your voice. That's considered an avera. Or v'niga b'kol. Let's say you have two different animals that are pulling that we're pulling the yoke of the threshing, for example, which you're not allowed to do. It's considered kilayim. It's considered using two different animals. It's asur. What if you don't actually lead the animals? You use your voice to move them. You whistle to them, for example. Yochanan says, "Hayav, you are chayav." Malkut. We see from here that Rabbi Yochanan does hold voice is chayav. Rabbi says, "Rabbi Yochanan piv have maser." Rabbi Yochanan says chayav because moving your mouth is chayav. Rabbi says that says that moving your mouth is not chayav. So we see that Rabbi Yochanan holds voice is good enough as an action. The Gemara says that the sin of edim zomin are different. Really actionable words are chayav. However, edim zomin are different because their sin is not necessarily in their voice, but rather of their viewing of the incident. They viewed the incident incorrectly because of testifying falsely. Major problem with this. The Rif goes crazy on this answer because technically they didn't see an incident. They made it up. The whole point of edim zomin is to testify falsely. They said, "Oh yeah, we saw Reuven kill someone last week." Meanwhile, that never happened. So what do you mean they viewed the incident? They didn't view anything. The Rif goes crazy on this ayin sham. Okay, Tanoran. Baal Hov, the person who does the Ov, when he conjures the demons into his joints and he talks to them. Or through the armpits. He places the bone of a yadua animal in his mouth, and then the demon speaks through that bone in his mouth. Pretty intense. My love, it sounds like in his pasuk that they were speaking to Ov through the floor, not through the through the grave, not through a bone in your joints or in your armpits. Gemara says no. Let us like Ben Barkim Shai. Someone arrived into his joints. Hashma, but Tumar Shalosh Elokim Reiti Olim Min Haaretz. My love the Mishneh Be'orcha over there as well. Shaul tried to speak to demon to see what's going on with the future war that didn't take. He hired a sorceress. Sorceress panicked because when she called up the demon to speak, the demon appeared head first instead of the usual feet first out of respect for the king. Only then did she realize that the king of the Jews was in front of her. But we see from here as well, seemingly, that the spirit spoke from the ground, not from the joints. Where says, La, again, it went to her joints to speak. Okay, number 9. Ba'lov. Person does ov or the person raises the spirit to speak from his male organ. Or he talks it through a skull. Ma ben what's the difference between those two? Ma the whole person uses the male organ and it doesn't arrive naturally, it arrives feet first. They don't have Shabbat and will not speak on Shabbat. Benishab big we talk through a skull, or look at their call, it will arrive head first, Shabbat, and the demon will talk on Shabbat. The skull will go up. Where's it going? The skull's on the floor. Where do you mean it's going up? The Gemara says, it responds naturally without having to move from the joints. Even respond Shabbat. We also has question. Tunas Rufus, the future destroyer of Yerushalayim, and the future murderer of Rabbi Akiva. He asked Rabbi Akiva, he told him, what's the difference between today, Shabbat, versus any other day? My Lord, Rabbi Akiva answered him, powerful line, what's the difference between you and any other man? He's bashing him. He says, yeah, I know you're the general of Hadrian and Caesar, but what makes you different than anybody else? You're a lowlife. Marla answered him, this is my master decided I'm the boss. Shabbat, not me, Rabbi Akiva answered him, yeah, you fell right into my trap. Shabbat's different as well because my master said Shabbat's different. Marla Tunas Rova said to him, my question is as follows. Who says today's Shabbat? Who says today's Shabbat? Rabbi Akiva said, I can prove it to you. Nehar Sebation Nochiach, the river Sebation, which would be very, very powerful during the week. It was rushing powerfully, and Shabbat it would rest. So that's first of all the first proof. Baal Ov Yochiach, a person who does Ov as well will prove it to you that today's Shabbat, that it won't answer you on Shabbat, as we just said. And here's the nail in the coffin. He says, your father's grave is the proof as well. That smoke will not come on Shabbat, meaning the whole week your father's in Gehinam, and on Shabbat it won't be. That's how your father's grave is the proof. Amar lo, he told him, busy to, you disgraced my father. Biyashto, you embarrassed him. Vekilato, and you also insulted him. And ended up killing Rabbi Akiva by torture. The Gemara says, okay, we mentioned that you talk to the dead. The Gemara says, 1 second, is the same thing as another pasuk of saying don't seek out to talk to the dead people. The Gemara says no. The person who speaks to the dead is as follows. Who speaks to the dead? Starve himself and sleeps in the cemetery. So that the spirit of Tumah would land on him, and through that starvation and cemetery sleeping, he gets these power of Tumah. Whenever Akiva would go around this pasuk, he used to cry. Someone would go as far as to go starve himself and then go to the cemetery just to have this spirit of Tumah on him. It would work. Imagine a person starves himself and puts in effort to have the spirit of tahar, of purity on him. For sure, he'd be successful. Yeah, that's why we do the daf. I said, what can I do? Our sins cause us not to be successful. Marabara says, if the Siddiqim wanted to, they could create a world. Hashem barely put separation between us and him if we are doing the right things. Seemingly, Rava was able to create a person, like a golem person, through the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of the creation. And he sent this person that he created to Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera spoke to it. This being would not answer him. Rabbi Zera says that, you must be created by one of my friends. Good prank. Go back, return to dust, and that's what happened. Similarly, Rabbi Hanina would sit every day, Erev Shabbat, they would use the book of creation that has since been lost. They would create a certain type of calf that was the perfect age, like a third of a year. They would eat it for Shabbat. All right, that's quite the magic trick. Timran, me'onen. Pasuk says there will be no me'onen among you. Rabbi Shimon, what does that mean? Zeh mav'ir shiv'a minei zachur ala ayin. This refers to, don't try this at home, a person to do sorcery, he would take 7 different types of animals' semen and put it over his eyes. Hamid Rahim says, this person who creates illusions, not necessarily magical. Rabbi Akiva Amar says, this person who uses astrology. Said, he'll tell you, oh, today's a good day to go take a flight. Or tomorrow's a good day to buy something. He would know when is a good time in the Shemitah year to start producing wheat. Or he don't uproot your beans this week because it'll be bad for you. Any person uses astrology to give financial advice. This is the type of sorcery the Torah did not let. Number 9, minachesh. Don't have any superstitions. This is very big. I know we have our grandmas, we used to tell us, but apparently a lot of these things are not so simple. Is a person says, oh, my bread fell from his mouth, therefore something bad is going to happen to him. Don't go on a journey. Don't do business today. Or oh, the person's stick fell from his hand. If your son called you from behind, or if a raven called out to him, or a deer crossed your path. If a snake's on your right or a fox on your left is bad luck. I mean, I think that's regardless of bad luck because it's quite dangerous. Don't tax me today because I don't want to pay today. Shahritu, it's because it's the morning. Or Rosh Chodesh, I don't pay on Rosh Chodesh. Mos Shabbatu, I don't pay on the beginning of the week of after Shabbat. All these things are superstitions that we should not practice. So Imran, is referring to people who are superstitious based off of they see a weasel or a mouse, a bird, or bidagim, or they see fish. They'll base off their actions or fears based off seeing these creatures, like a black cat. That's what the goyim do. Person who is mechalel Shabbat, he's chayav sekila. But if he does something that on Shabbat, he'll be, if he did it by mistake, if he did it on purpose rather, without being witnessed, he'll be get karet. But if he did it by mistake, he will get a korban hatat. So 3 things: if he does it on purpose and someone sees him and warns him, mitas sekila, he gets killed by stoning. By mistake, korban hatat. On purpose, but without warning, Hashem will take care of him through karet. Okay. So that sounds like, oh, there are certain mitzvot, certain avirot on Shabbat, certain things that you could do on Shabbat that you chayav karet /sekila /hatat. What would be the exclusion to that? Gemara says there are mahi tehumin. If you're over on tehom, leaving the 2,000 amot of your city, according to Rabbi Akiva, or havara, if you light a fire on Shabbat, only to the opinion of according to Rabbi Yosef holds the lav. We actually hold that fire is a melacha that be chayav sekila as well. Okay, new Mishnah. If someone curses his father or mother, is not chayav sekila unless he uses the name of Hashem to curse them. So a person uses Hashem's name to curse his parents, chayav sekila. If you use a secondary name of Hashem, Elokai, Shakai, or others, as Rashi mentions, Rabbi Meir holds you still chayav sekila. But Hamim say you're part